I woke up to a weight pressing down on my chest, heavy, warm, and definitely breathing. My first thought was that I'd left the window open and a stray animal had snuck in. My second thought vanished the moment my eyes locked onto four glowing irises staring down at me. She was kneeling astride me, skin the color of twilight and veins pulsing faintly with light, like tiny rivers of starlight beneath the surface. No clothes, no explanation, just sitting there, perfectly calm, as if waking up on top of a confused human was the most ordinary thing in the universe. "Your heart rate is stable," she murmured, voice melodic but unnervingly precise. "Good. The bonding process is holding." Bonding process. I croaked, still half-dreaming. "Lady, you're on my chest, in my bed, and I don't even know your name." "Designation, Lyria," she replied, tilting her head with the curiosity of a scientist observing a new species. "And I am here because your physiology is the only compatible host within 200 light-years." I blinked. "Host? I hired a housekeeper, not a parasite." Her brows knit together. "Housekeeper? Yes, that was the human term the agency suggested. But cleaning dust is irrelevant. My task is far more urgent." She shifted, and the glow on her skin responded to my pulse. Somewhere between fascination and panic, I realized she wasn't lying. Whatever she was, and whatever was happening, it was biological, not theatrical. I tried to sit up, but she gently pushed me back down with surprising strength. "Movement disrupts the synchronization. You must remain still for another 3 minutes." "Synchronization of what exactly?" "Of life signatures," she said simply. "Without yours, I cannot survive." The words hit harder than I expected. A part of me wanted to shove her off and call the authorities. Another part, the scientist buried deep beneath years of disappointment, was curious, dangerously curious. "Okay," I said finally, exhaling a shaky breath. "But once these 3 minutes are up, you're explaining everything. And you're putting on clothes." Her lips curved into a small, almost human smile. "Agreed? Though I should warn you, explaining everything may take more than a lifetime." By the time Lyria stepped out of my bedroom wearing a loose gray jumpsuit she'd somehow fabricated from the apartment's 3D fabricator, I convinced myself this was all a bizarre dream. That illusion shattered the moment she started cleaning. Within an hour, my kitchen looked like a research lab. My coffee maker was disassembled and repurposed into a molecular filtration unit. My fridge was humming at a frequency that made my fillings buzz. And my socks? Arranged by molecular density. "Housekeeping," she said brightly when I stared in horror. "Your living environment was highly inefficient. I have optimized it for survival." "Survival?" I asked. "I was just hoping you'd do the dishes." Her head tilted, 4 eyes blinking in asynchronous patterns. "Dishes complete secondary objectives. Primary objective is stabilizing the environment for our shared biofield." "Our what?" "Your vital signature and mine are now intertwined," she explained calmly, as if discussing the weather. "Our bodies are adjusting. Your heartbeat influences my metabolic cycles. My neural field is reinforcing your immune system." It was ridiculous, yet the burn scars on my left arm, souvenirs from a lab accident years ago, no longer ached. I hadn't even noticed until that moment. Humor aside, something was happening, and it wasn't just bonding. The air in the apartment felt charged. Electronics flickered when we stood too close. Even the house AI glitched, insisting there was a foreign neural presence in the system. "Lyria," I said, voice low, "what aren't you telling me?" She paused mid-motion. Hand still on the wall panel, she was rewiring into some kind of alien console. "There are others," she admitted. "They will come for me when they realize I'm gone. And if they find us before the bond stabilizes." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I rubbed my temples, trying to process the insanity unfolding in my own living room. "So, just to recap, I muttered, I hire a housekeeper. She turns my home into a spaceship. And now there are people, or aliens, coming to kill us." "Not kill," she corrected softly. "Retrieve, dissect, possibly erase." I stared at her, speechless. On the bright side, she added, as if it were a joke, your kitchen is now 93% more efficient. The days that followed were a blur of questions with too few answers. Lyria spoke in fragments, warnings about pursuers, mentions of forbidden research, hints of a decision that had made her an exile. But every time I pushed for details, she changed the subject or distracted me with some new alien modification to my apartment. Then one night, while she was in the other room, my house AI flickered back online. A message flashed across the holo display. External signal detected. Origin, Lyria. My stomach dropped. I traced the signal, fingers trembling as I bypassed the encryption. It wasn't just a transmission. It was a biometric data stream, and the data was mine. My DNA, my neural patterns, my entire biological identity was being sent somewhere light years away. I confronted her the moment she returned. You're transmitting my data. Why? She froze. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked guilty. Because your biology is the key, she admitted softly. I needed your sequence to complete my research. Research? I repeated. You said this was about survival, about bonding. It is, she insisted. My people are dying. Ethan, entire generations wiped out by a genetic plague. I was part of a project to save us, until the council banned it. They said merging our genome with another species was unnatural, dangerous. I disagreed. And you decided to use me. My voice cracked, anger boiling beneath the shock. I didn't choose you by chance, she said. I came because your father worked with us decades ago. His experiments proved humans carry the dormant sequences we need. You're his legacy, the final piece. The room spun. My father, the man who died in a lab explosion I barely remembered, had known about all of this, had prepared me for it. Before I could speak again, alarm screamed. The sky outside turned violet as 3 ships broke through the clouds, hovering ominously above my building. Lyriawa's face drained of color. They found us, she whispered. And in that instant, I realized my life had spiraled far beyond anything human, and the next decision I made could change the fate of 2 species. The building shook as the alien ships descended, their engines screaming like thunder. Lights flickered, glass shattered, and every instinct in my body screamed run. Lyria grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the back stairwell. They'll breach the front entrance in under a minute, she said, voice steady but urgent. We need to move now. We sprinted through the narrow emergency corridors, our footsteps echoing against the concrete. My heart hammered, not just from fear, but from 1,000 questions crashing through my mind. How much of this was real? How much of my life had been manipulated before I even knew it had begun? We burst out into the night, where a stolen cargo skimmer was waiting. Lyria leapt into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing over alien controls. The vehicle roared to life, shooting upward into the dark sky as beams of violet energy ripped through the air beneath us. Where are we going? I shouted over the wind. Somewhere they can't track us. There's an abandoned orbital lab. It's where I completed the first half of the genome protocol. We'll be safe there. For a while. I stared at her profile, calm, focused, and heartbreakingly determined. I wanted to hate her for using me, for dragging me into this madness. But the truth was, I didn't. The bond we shared wasn't just chemical anymore. It was something deeper, something that made my chest ache every time she looked at me. Hours later, we were in orbit, weightless and breathless, floating inside a cold, dark station that hadn't seen life in decades. It smelled of metal and dust, but Lyria moved through it like she'd built the place herself. Help me, she said, gesturing to a console. If we merge your sequence with a prototype now, we can create a cure that will end the plague. Billions of lives. Ethan, billions. And if it kills me? I asked quietly. She hesitated, then met my eyes. Then I will carry the guilt for the rest of my life. But I will not stop you if you want to walk away. I stared at the console, my heart beat loud in the silence. Saving her people might cost me everything, including my humanity, but walking away might cost the universe far more. The lab was silent except for the soft hum of dormant machinery waking to life. I stood before the console, palms sweating, heart pounding hard enough that I was sure Lyria could feel it through our bond. One press of a button, and everything, my body, my mind, maybe even my soul, could change forever. Billions of lives, I murmured, staring at the swirling data projections. And one of them is mine. Lyria stepped closer, her presence calm but heavy. I will not ask you to sacrifice yourself. I only ask you to choose, not for me, not for them, but for what you believe is right. For the first time since this madness began, I realized how much she had changed me. I wasn't the man who once lived alone in silence, drowning in old regrets. Somewhere between the chaos and the confessions, between the fear and the closeness, I had found something worth risking everything for. I placed my hand on the biometric scanner. Let's finish this. The machine came alive, light flooding the chamber. A sharp pain exploded through my chest as our neural fields merged fully, her energy weaving into mine like threads of lightning. Memories, emotions, and fragments of alien knowledge surged through me, overwhelming, exhilarating, terrifying. Lyria cried out, clutching my hand. It's working. The code is stabilizing. Then the alarm screamed. The syndicate had found us. Explosions rocked the station as boarding pods slammed into the hull. Armed figures poured in, demanding we surrender the prototype. Keep it running. I shouted, tearing a plasma cutter from the wall. I'll hold them off. We fought side by side, not soldier and scientist, not captor and captive, but partners. Every movement felt synced, every thought shared. And when the final sequence completed, a pulse of energy swept through the room, knocking everyone to their knees. The cure was live. The plague was finished. Weeks later, as the galaxy celebrated the alliance between two species once divided by fear, I stood with Lyria under a foreign sky. You were supposed to be my housekeeper, I said, smiling. And you, she replied softly, were supposed to be ordinary. We both knew we were neither of those things anymore. We were proof that two worlds could meet, clash, and still create something stronger, together.